I believe that it is extremely likely that if you have a service animal at Universal Orlando, you should expect to have a cast member come up to you and ask for IBCCES approval identification on your service animal. You should expect that at the parks, at City Walk, in the shops, checking into a resort. Why do I say this? Because it happens all the time in general. In general, people have come with these stories. I had to explain to the manager the ADA, and I had to explain to them why they couldn't ask me these questions. So now, if you frame it like this, the average employee, let's think about the average employee. The average employee working at Universal has been told by their superiors, by their boss, that there's a new system in place called the IBCCES that tells approval of people's disabilities. And they're going to go, oh, okay, thank you, Bob, for telling me about that. When you have your service animal and you're walking in the park, is going to stop you as you're in the park and say, I'm sorry, ma'am, do you have IBCCES? Can you pull that up on your phone and show me that you are approved to have a service animal? And you're going to be like, I'm sorry, but this is against the ADA. Now let me quote to you the ADA and explain to you the two laws. And they're going to be like, what are you talking about? Universal told me that we now follow IBCCES law. And you're going to be like, let me try to explain this to you. The average person today is highly uneducated when it comes to the ADA. That is why way before this happened, people would have dozens and dozens of complaints. You see them all the time on the internet where they're having to explain to the person in charge, the ADA, and then they come forth and say, well, people always show me documents which are obviously fake. Since they put this into effect, this IBC alphabet company card, you should expect to have people who were uneducated before on the ADA. Now they're going to be super uneducated and super uninformed about the questions that they can ask. You could be stopped walking in City Walk, in the shops, walking and visiting a hotel. It's highly likely now that when you go to check into a resort hotel, they're going to ask for that IBCCES alphabet company approval on your service animal. And you're going to say, oh, I'm sorry, can I talk to the hotel manager here or the floor manager? Because I need to explain to you the ADA and how the ADA works. And they're going to go, I'm sorry, here at Universal, we follow the IBCCES alphabet law company. We don't know what that ADA you're talking about is. And you're going to be like, no, the ADA exists. Let me try to explain to you the two questions. And they're going to go, no. And you know what's going to happen? They're going to call the police. That's probably what will happen in a situation like that. It'll probably be where the floor manager or the hotel manager says you're causing some sort of disturbance and I need that alphabet company proof, and if you're not going to provide that to me, they could call security on you, they could call the police on you. And what's going to happen in a situation like that is, because they are a private company that allows the public to go to them, they could then have the right to ask you to leave. And then what could happen is that the police or the security will ask you to leave, and at this point you're a victim of discrimination. And at that point, what you're doing is you're suing. At that point, you're getting an attorney and you're suing Universal Orlando for disability discrimination, for ADA discrimination. Then, as far as I'm aware, it's actually a crime in the state of Florida to deny a service animal. And at that point, you could even bring, you could find out about suing the city because of their involvement in the situation. So it becomes quite a miserable situation, but be mindful of those situations that it could take years to have a settlement or a monetary settlement from those types of situations. And in the meantime, you have been thoroughly abused. The IBCCES site requires you to submit proof and documentation of service animal to their site, where if you are approved, your identification card from the IBCCES will state accompanied by service animal. This was confirmed to me by a chat representative from the IBCCES. They informed me, the IBCCES, that you need to get this confirmation from them so that they can confirm you are qualified to have a service animal. They said that when you are questioned by a cast member or a check-in at the hotel, to simply show your proof of service animal. As we know, this is not allowed under the ADA. The ADA permits only two questions to be asked. One, is this a service animal? And two, what task is the service animal trained to do? They are not permitted to require documentation. They are not permitted to ask you what your disability is. This is completely against the ADA. The IBCCES is negating that. I brought this to Universal's attention. We're a chat representative in a chat. I do not know what this person's qualifications were. I don't know what their standing was, but they made a comment to me, oh, this is not the case. You'll be fine at Universal. You don't have to worry about this. At the same time that they said that, and they said, oh, you could bring your service animal, everything's fine. They then contradicted themselves by saying, so at the same time that they're making a comment in chat, service animals are welcome here, they're also saying IBCCES is doing this as a precaution. It's like, precaution for what? You need precaution against people who are disabled? As many of you know, Universal Orlando has recently changed the qualifications for guests who are disabled seeking accommodations at Universal Orlando. Whereas you could be, a couple of weeks ago, seek out accommodations at guest services, attraction assistance pass, that is no longer the case, and now you are forced to go to a third-party company called the IBCCES in order to be pre-screened to gain accommodations at Universal Orlando. Universal Orlando states on their site that only this private company can screen you and that they cannot when it comes to subjects like the ADA. It's a complicated subject. It's not a subject that I feel most people are educated on, and you should highly expect a situation to occur, because now that Universal has been given this IBCCES alphabet company green light stamp of approval, they feel very empowered right now, and you should expect to have an encounter with someone who is not educated on the ADA, who asks for that proof, you try to explain to them the ADA, and they ask you to leave. Highly unlikely that the average employee at Universal Orlando is going to be educated on the ADA. The average employee at Universal Orlando is going to be aware that there's a new system in place. That's what I want you to understand. The average employee that works at Universal Orlando is going to be aware, hey, there's a new system in place called the IBCCES, and that's what people need to show to prove their accommodations. And what the average employee is going to say there is, this is what I got to see with a service animal. And they're going to ask you, and it's going to be quite a situation if you're there with a service animal. Like I said, I had IBCS chat tell me you needed it to be on the resort property or you can't be there. Yes, the chat representative don't know who this person is, don't know how much ability or how high up they are at Universal. They told me, no, you don't need to worry about that with service dogs. But at the same time, again, they contradicted themselves. They said it's a precaution. When this chat representative, she's not a supervisor, don't know the level of employee this was. When she said the comment, no, you don't need proof, but then she makes a comment like, the reason it's suggested or preferred or however she was trying to go about it to give this information is so that a cast member knows how to assist you. It's like, you're not allowed to say that. You're not allowed to request it. You're not allowed to imply it. All of that is not okay. Again, if you do not get the great alphabet company's approval before you show up at Universal, you will not get accommodations. That in itself should tell you how much of a against the ADA thing, how much against the ADA this is. They're asking for IEP plans of young people. That's not okay. What if that information gets out on the internet? It's a third-party company with chat representatives probably from all around the world. It's like, what if a young person's IEP plan gets onto the internet, is on Google Images? I don't know. I'm seeing some conflicting information about how they will then, once you have the great alphabet company's approval, I don't know if they're giving you a wristband at Universal, which would be hysterical. I don't know if they're going to go that route or they're going to give you the orange booklet, but are we going to give people different color wristbands depending on your disability? Because the video clip from IBCCS apparently shows people with a wristband. So I don't know if they would go that route, but all of this is not okay. Also, if you have a service animal, obviously the service animal cannot go through a 4-hour line for a ride. The service animal will pee on itself, and you probably will too. Like I said, this Universal chat representative don't know what level of employee she was, don't even think she was a supervisor. She's saying things like, oh no, it's not required documentation, but if you gave it, I could see how it would be very helpful to the cast member. You're not allowed to say that. You could see with your own 2 eyes that it's a service animal. Also, this employee said, oh, IBCCES is doing this as a precaution against people who are disabled. This representative also said, and I can't speak for how other hotels work. It's like, ADA? So if you are a guest with disabilities that arrives at Universal Orlando not screened, you will not have accommodations even if you are disabled. The IBCCES requires sensitive information, medical documentation on service animals, medical documentation on young people, IEEP, education plans. This is a private company that has reviews on them on the Better Business Bureau, and it is highly disturbing that your sensitive information will be uploaded to them. Just as a reminder, the ADA does not permit private and public businesses who you are seeking reasonable accommodation with for disabilities to acquire documentation. The only exceptions are standardized admission exams such as the SAT, and in rare cases, employment where licensing or a very good case can be made by an employer as to why you need documentation. Documentation is not permitted by the ADA whatsoever. So when people in the comments say, oh, they're doing this because of the fakes out there, something like that, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what the reason is or what their mindset is. The ADA does not permit them to do this. The ADA, governed by the DOJ, Universal is a company. They have to listen to the law. They have to listen to the rules that are set out by the federal government. And the ADA does not permit this, plain and simple. But this video is about, I have 2 very detailed videos on this already up on my channel. This video is specifically going to be about service animals. Shows the knowledge level of this person I was communicating with to people who are not knowledgeable on the ADA as to what they can ask and what they cannot ask. And it's going to be so much worse now because these employees up there who are already not knowledgeable on the ADA are going to think it's okay because they're going to think that the IBCCES alphabet company is what you are required to show them. There are, blogs online and stories of people who were harassed or denied, or I've had commentators tell me on my channel stories about how they've been denied by the AAP pass, and that was when it was the AAP pass, and they said the situation was not even rectified at the time when another manager came over. So you could imagine how you're going to take someone who was not knowledgeable before on the ADA, give them the green light of the alphabet company, and it's going to be quite a situation there. It's possible that you also check into a hotel and they try to charge you a pet fee or a cleanup fee. We don't know what a hotel is capable of because if they're not educated on the ADA, we just don't know. Initially, Universal attempted to deny this, but again, we don't know. And again, IBCCES said there could be charges that apply, so we don't know when that happens, will they charge me? Who knows? So as I mentioned before, if someone were to just show up at Universal without the great alphabet company approval, you would actually not get accommodations as a disabled person. Do we understand how not okay that is? How against the ADA that is? Universal cannot just hand off this sole discretion to another company and be like, yeah, we're a company. Yeah, we're a company operating in Florida. Yeah, we're a company operating in the United States, but we're not going to deal with that. It doesn't work like that. So when we see someone with a service dog, we can clearly see that's a service animal. So if they do not have the great IBCCES alphabet company approval on their card, and they show up to Universal Orlando with a service animal, they're going to be told potentially that they can't go through a alternative line with the service animal so that the service animal can go in a crate. What is that situation going to look like? Because if they don't have the alphabet company approval, they technically have not been approved to go through any alternative line. So does that mean the service animal needs to go through a 4-hour line, possibly pee on itself, get agitated, and maybe you pee on yourself too? How does that work? As I mentioned, this has been an issue before, way before this occurred. There is a story, I think it's on TripAdvisor, and it goes back to like a 2017 post of a family that spoke about an incident they had at the Cabana Bay Beach Resort, which is at Universal Orlando, and they said They checked in with a service animal. They even gave the hotel a heads up they were coming with it, which they don't have to do. It's nice if they do, but they don't have to. You have the ability to show up with your service animal the same way someone decides, I'm going to take a road trip and I'm going to check into a hotel. But they did tell them ahead of time. They didn't have to. This family stated that they had a bad experience at Universal Orlando Cabana Bay regarding their service animal. They said that they were questioned by management as to if they had a vest, if they could prove it, if they had documentation. And this was, their post goes back to 2017. So this is way before the Alphabet company came into play. And they said that it was a miserable experience and that some staff said they had a zoo in the room and other animals, and it was this whole thing where they got locked out of their room by security, and it sounded like quite a beautiful experience they had. So now you could imagine the power that the hotels there are going to have, as well as the fact that, like I said, most people are very uneducated when it comes to the ADA, and now they're going to be even more so uneducated, and they're going to have you checking in and they're going to say, show me your alphabet proof. When people move to Orlando, or media specifically exists in Orlando, they rely upon the theme park industry to survive, even when it comes to things like advertisements. You have a channel, a news station up there. If they get invited to Universal Orlando or Disney to do a story, they then run advertisements on that story. And they really depend to be on the good graces side of the theme park. So unless something really viral happened at Universal or Disney, a situation, I'm talking specifically Universal, where hypothetical, someone was denied their service animal and someone takes out TikTok and they film someone potentially being abused with their service animal and thrown out of the park. Unless something like that were to happen and it went viral and then the news media up there was forced to cover it, they don't want to. Honestly, they are, in a sense, if they rely on, news stations rely on advertisers. That's how they make their money. So if they're invited into a theme park to do a story, for example, a new ride opening, a new hotel opening, they rely on those stories. They rely on those stories for income to then run advertisements on it, to have advertisements of travel agencies and such, which a lot of YouTubers actually will have travel agents as their sponsors, and they don't really want to say anything too bad about the theme parks because then I'm going to lose my sponsor. So there's a lot of conflict of interest that happens, and again, unless it's something that goes super viral and they just have to talk about it, they don't want to. There's a YouTube channel out there, and as far as I'm able to see, I could be wrong and really have to go through their videos, they commented on this incident in a blog format website, but it seems that they were hesitant to do a YouTube video on this, probably for the same reasons. They probably got sponsors that are travel agents. They talk about the theme parks at times, but never too much, because again, there's always the hope that you're going to get that free cupcake. I have comments on my channel where people have said in a way, yeah, I'm kind of creeped out about the idea of giving my personal private information to some third-party company that has reviews on the Better Business Bureau. But, if it is what it is, and maybe it'll be good for a year, and that's good. The common man is very used to accepting abuse. Doesn't mean it's their fault. But society comes with a lot of that. You learn to cope, you learn to get used to it, and you learn to make up excuses. I'll go to the park, I'll show them all the documentation they want. Hopefully they won't abuse me, and if they do, then maybe that'll change my mind. But that's how people have been treated today. And I'm not gonna lie, and there are times, you will see on my channel, I have videos on my channel where I went to Universal and I had a very good time. In certain aspects of the trip, there were other things I was not thrilled about there. But there are moments there where I had a good time. But obviously, I'm not happy about having my rights taken away by a company who's not following the ADA. And I'm not going to be one of these mainstream Universal Disney vloggers who are jumping for joy every time one of these theme parks throws them a bone and allows them to go to something with early access or something of that level. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to show up at a new attraction and twerk with the minions and show you the new footage just so I could gain some views on YouTube when I know how people are disadvantaged and how people are being affected by this. because they won't talk to you about this. They're too interested in the free cupcakes. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you all, and I appreciate you guys engaging and commenting and sharing your stories. I think it really helps to get information out there. And I thank you again for watching. And if you are interested, subscribe, like. I also have channel memberships and Patreon if you are interested in supporting the channel. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon in my next video, and bye.